Welcome, Lisa. It is great to have you here on Couch Talk. We call this the intimate place for intimate conversation, and we are going to dig into it today.
Well, I'm really excited to be here, Dr. Cabeca. Thank you so much.
I love it. And I love your new book, and I want you to tell us about it and also the play on words for your title.
Well, thank you. So I happen to have it right here. What a
Perfect.
coincidence.
Show
So it is called Clean Eating, Dirty Sex, Essential Superfoods, and Aphrodisiac Practices for Ultimate Sexual Health and Connection. First thing, I love a good pun. Blame my family. It was the way I was raised. And I wanted something with clean eating and I wanted something with sex. And I like the play on words of clean and dirty. The problem is some people will read the title and like, oh, I'm not into dirty sex. I'm like, there's nothing dirty in the book. The best response is when people just laugh because they get it, right? They get that, okay, this is a book that's going to help your sexual health and it's going to help your overall health as well. And so that's what's fun. But a funny story, my friend of mine, she couldn't find her 11-year-old daughter and she's looking around for her and, she hears some rustling in the closet and she goes and opens the closet and her daughter's there with the book, with the flashlight. And she goes, Mom, this is just a health book. I just made my day. This is so funny. I mean, there is some stuff on sexual health in there, but she was pretty disappointed.
Oh man, no, you are real in the book. You tell your story, your 11-year-old story, right? You
Yes,
tell like the trauma, the
that was horrible.
the imprints or the words that are written on our hearts, on our souls, sometime at a young age that will keep us from acknowledging our sexuality or lead us astray in our own sexuality and our concept of intimacy and what it means to be completely feminine and sensual and beautiful as a woman. And that, really your story right at the beginning of the book really just touched my heart because I now have an 11-year-old turning 12-year-old, right? And I have 4 daughters. So
Hard age.
I feel like, gosh, she should know everything. But there's certain things I can't, right? We can't control what other people may say to her. And that's really powerful. So I want you to share just that's a little bit of that story about how young, how when we are as adults, even in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it doesn't matter how old we are, we can be held back by some of those scars, untruths
Oh,
that
definitely.
experienced or have been words we've heard, right? We know the power of the word is really, really powerful. And so these things that have been written on our hearts, and from working with, as you have, so many women with sexual health issues, they're often blockages from our childhood. And so I love that you brought that up in complete transparency, authenticity, and it's really, really beautiful how
Oh,
you
well,
write.
I want to thank you so much. And that was really important to me because I thought, if I can't share my own experiences, the book's not going to be as rich and as interesting and get people to ask the kind of questions that you're asking. I don't want to give away exactly what happened because I really want people to read the story. There's basically I already felt like a loser. I grew up feeling like a loser. I was skinny. I was awkward. I was the last girl picked in gym. I had a few really close friends, but I just felt like people didn't really get me. And then my home life was tough. My mom was chronically ill and I didn't go into that a lot. I touched on that in the book, but I didn't really go into how hard it was. And so I really felt I wasn't really happy at home. I wasn't happy out in the world. And I was never invited to a boy-girl birthday party ever until my friend Shelley Baudet invited me. And I remember, and I put this in the book, and I swear it was like it was yesterday. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, I look good. I had my like brown and orange collared shirt on because it was the late 70s and I had my hair feathered and my hair was not meant to be feathered. It was like really frizzy and it took a lot to get it feathered. And I remember feeling good. And then there was an incident that happened at the party that just was like, oh my God, all the bad things you thought about yourself, everybody really does feel that way. It's not just me thinking people feel that way about me, but I really am just a joke. It was devastating. And it led me into once I developed and I was a late bloomer and I went from being like a skinny boy at 16 to 18, having like a Elle Macpherson body, and they called her the bod, and to getting lots of male attention and then using it in the wrong way because I thought, oh, I must not be that loser everybody said I was. So those things stick with you.
Well, and I think you say it so well and honestly in the book, and you're like, well, I was seeking these outside attentions to feed this gap or this insecurity in my own
Right.
soul, right? This,
Yes.
this lack of sense of self. And that is rampant in today's
Oh, it is.
culture with the perfect social profiles, right? The perfect
Yes.
images. And again,
Right.
from being, a gynecologist working with all levels, celebrities, experts, et cetera. I mean, everyone has these insecurities in so many ways, or can have them, and that can hold us back. And I think that's really, really powerful. One of our mutual friends, Dr. Keisha Ewers, talks about this in
Yeah,
great
she's great
detail
in the
and how
book.
it really affects our immune system, and in many ways, this lack of sense of self, right,
Oh,
allows invaders. And mental invaders are some of the worst. And when we are, and I coach online programs, I work with women, and often I hear these beautiful, talented, um, accomplished women will say, I feel like I don't deserve that.
Mm.
Like where, and so at any age we can be dealing with this. And of course, I'm especially tender with my, after reading your book too, with my 11-year-old, 12-year-old, like, shoot, I really need to revisit this. I think I've created these amazing, confident women, but, let me just, keep speaking into that and giving stories like the one you shared. I was going to share that with her
Oh,
because,
I would love that. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. And
it,
this means so much to
me
me because
too.
I've heard people say, I'm really touched that you shared this. And I had you on the show because, you shared this and it made your book, different than a lot of books out there. But I'm really nice. It's so nice to hear about that with your own daughter. Cause my daughter's 15 and I've shared this story with her.
Yeah.
And she was just so sweet. She's like, oh, mom, but she's, different and quirky and she has her own struggles. But it helps to know that, I've been there too. And she can always talk to me about them. And,
I
it
love it.
opens up, yeah, it opens up the door. So
Yeah, I would say our uniqueness creates us. And my daughter, when my
definitely.
other child, she's now 20, but when she was 13, 14, she came home from school one day and she said, Mom, I'm just not like anyone else. I'm like, thank
It's like,
God.
can you get her
Thank
together with my daughter?
God. Yes, I'm just not like anyone else. So she's taken her third year of college, spending a year in Nijmegen. I'm like, if you were like everyone else, you'd be at the community college right here in Southeast Georgia. So
Right.
be very glad how this panned out. So
Exactly.
let's dig into this dirty sex issue because, I
Sure.
think like I have a program called Sexual CPR. It's a really holistic, really, I say, God-centered program to enhance our feminine energy, our sexuality, because of these things, words from our past, experiences, self-talk, self-doubt, self-recrimination based on, you know, mistakes or bad judgment. And we've all had it.
Totally.
I'll raise my hand on that one. And especially if we've had trauma, sexual assault, sexual abuse, date rape, and
Oh God, yes.
all of those things create a rebound in many, many ways and expose us to some emotional trauma that we have to deal with at any age. And
Oh yeah.
so I think it's really cool to like have fun with that. I loved when I saw your title, Clean Eating, Dirty Sex. I'm
Oh, I'm
like,
so
oh
glad.
yes. And I know it's about food and health and all this good stuff, but you bring
Right.
these real stories about our sexual health and our sexual self-confidence. I would say that more.
Oh, I
um,
like that.
Sexual self-confidence, and you tap into that in many different areas, like how do I get my sexual self-confidence back,
Right.
and like what are the things I need to do from my lifestyle perspective, what do I need to do from my communication perspective, and the concept of like like what's dirty about sex, with the person you love in an intimate relationship, and
Right.
there's no holding back, so you can continue that intimacy post menopause well into old age.
Right.
There we have sanctity of marriage, right? We have
Yes.
longevity of marriage and quality
Exactly.
love and health. And yeah, so bravo.
Oh, thank you. No, I really enjoyed it. I've been in this field for a long time. So for 20 years, I started in TV and then got into radio and podcasts. And people will say, well, why did you pick those topics? And it's like, well, I hadn't seen anything like this before, where you have a memoir plus a cookbook plus a healthy lifestyle guide where I could reach out to a lot of experts that I've interviewed. And I also wanted to focus on two areas that I struggled with. I struggled with clean eating. You know, I talk about hiding the Girl Scout cookies, and that's the whole reason I joined Girl Scouts. And she's, what is with the Girl Scouts? Can't they take the trans fat out of the cookies? Like, come on, it's 2020.
It's time.
But I digress. But and then I struggle with having a healthy relationship with sex and not using it to gain attention. So I thought that was sort of interesting too, and it made it make more sense of why I was sharing these types of stories.
What's your favorite part of the book? What was your favorite part to write?
The memoir stories were my favorite part. I thought they were not only really candid, but I thought they were funny. And I thought that people always say, oh, you're such a crack up. And I like to use my humor and use it in a way that's going to benefit people and help people and be able to tell a story. So even though there's sad moments, like I talked about that thing that happened at the party, I think that the way I write it is engaging. I hope that came out to you. That was something that I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed being able to take interviews that I've done with people and, you know, expand on them, add to them, and then put them into the book. And being able to have such an amazing array of experts to choose from, you know, Dr. Lori Shemick to Dave Asprey. And there's, you know, too many to mention, but there's over 50. So it's a lot in the fields of psychology, sexology, exercise, physiology, you know, nutrition, sexual health. There was a great therapist that I interviewed from California. She gave some great tips. And I think that's why you can get so much from the book. And I tell people, even if you're celibate, if you do the stuff with the fitness and the exercise and the communication with your partner, whether you're looking to have better sex or not, you'll probably end up having better sex, but you're also going to just have better overall health.
Well, it's a longevity diet for sure. And it's
Right.
a longevity approach,
Yes.
plus feeding in the intimacy. So one of the big things that, like I always say, the most important hormone in our body that trumps any other hormone is oxytocin. The
Definitely.
hormone of love, bonding, and connection. Sexual or not sexual, right?
Yeah.
There's that sense of intimacy, community, connection, relationships are the most vitally important thing to us. And with that, one of my favorite parts of your book is this inner bonding chapter that you wrote.
Gosh.
And the 6 steps to freedom. Lisa, you know, this is so good. This is so good.
Well, that's all Margaret Paul.
Oh, that is so
Isn't
good.
she amazing?
Yes.
She is such an inspiration. I learned about her from my sister several years ago, and she said, Lisa, you've got to read Margaret Paul's work. You've got to have her on your show. And I was just blown away. It's like really developing that relationship with yourself. When you weren't nurtured, if you were abused, if you were neglected, whatever the case is, you have to have that inner love for yourself. And she takes you through these steps. And I think that something that was so important to me that I hadn't seen in other books around sexual health was unhealed trauma. And that's why I reached out to Margaret Paul, because you can eat all the blueberries and do all the yoga and have the good, active listening and iMessages and time with your partner and putting your phone down and all that stuff. But if you have unhealed trauma, that's going to get in the way, right? In many areas of your life. And so you're making me so happy I could cry.
Well, and it's not just sexual trauma, right?
In sync. Yes, of course.
We are in sync. And it's not sexual trauma only, right? That's just a part of it.
Of course.
And my experience was, post-traumatic stress leading to a disconnect in my marriage. I no longer felt loved. I no longer felt connected. And this marriage we wanted to last no matter, through our trauma, through everything, we still ended up in divorce. And it was that feeling, I do not feel love. I do not feel connected. And like, well, how and what other ways can I feel connected? What other ways can I feel love? What was wrong with the physiology? And I write about that. That's chapter 8 in my book. And that's pretty honest. And I mean, it's really honest. And of course I could elaborate in a much bigger way. But I think that's where this inner bonding, like I had to begin to love myself. I had to stop shaming, blaming, myself and reframe my experiences in a positive, self-loving way. So that inner bonding, let's walk through just a couple of the steps. Like what have you found that's been so impactful? I'm not familiar with her work, Margaret Paul, but I am.
Read everything, go online and just type in Margaret Paul.
Okay.
She is just so incredible. I absolutely love her. I have to be honest with folks. There's so much in the book. I don't have
Yeah.
them memorized, but when I'll go through them with you, when I've done my work with her and around working with her, and you can work with her, by the way. I mean,
Oh, cool.
she's phenomenal. I mean, she's just made such a difference in my sister's life, and she's really helped me as well. I think she's pretty phenomenal. I also talk about resentment in that chapter as well.
Oh, that's
So,
a big one. That is such a big one. I
yeah.
like,
So,
here you
go
say,
ahead.
Margaret told me when we're being neglected or abused, we're all alone. And I got to put my glasses on.
Oh,
Glasses.
sure. And I got to keep mine on my
Yeah.
eyesight. Turn after 50, it's like, where is everybody?
Right. Like what?
What the heck?
So when we're being neglected or abused, we're all alone and we're helpless and there's nothing we can do. The pain is too much for a child to manage alone. What happens during child abuse of all kinds is that most of the time a child learns to disassociate.
Yes.
This leaves their body. They leave their body or go up into their head as a coping mechanism. It's actually a very good coping mechanism, but it creates a pattern of dissociating from feelings. In order to stay in our heads and away from painful feelings, we learn to judge ourselves, to turn to various addictions, and make other people responsible for our feelings. These self-abandoning and self-rejecting behaviors perpetuate the disconnection that happened during the abuse. So we have this wounded self versus the
Right.
loving self. And oftentimes this abuse, and I know from my experience, I'll be honest with you, Lisa, stems from, I grew up Catholic, Christian. I definitely loved I was 100% feminine, loved, having friends, opposite sex,
Yeah.
dating, but I was a virgin. I was a virgin, intending to be a virgin till, I really connected in love with my future husband, right? So at nearly age 21, I experienced date rape.
Oh, God.
And that was a really traumatic experience for me. And it was, it opened a door to compensatory behavior that I can
Sure.
now discuss and open up about, and recognize how really sometimes date rape, sexual abuse opens up a door to, like, okay, well, how do I, how could someone do that to me? Am I not loving? Or how, let me just prove or that I can be loving. I'm not exactly sure, but there's a personal physical boundary that's eliminated
Oh,
during
yeah.
that interaction, that exposure. All of a sudden your body is not yours. You're now outside your body. Okay, well, what you do to my body doesn't really affect me. And it's this subconscious, it's not even conscious. And as I experienced it, then went on to study women's health, women's sexual health, been very passionate about really explaining this to others that have experienced these kinds of trauma. We actually now created and founded a home for girls who have been sex trafficked. And we do a Christian rehab, EMDR work. We do trauma work, education, schooling. It's for girls age 12 to 18. So there's a lot of relearning, but just speaking about these experiences and being able to relate in certain ways that, there's not something wrong with you. You're not evil. You're not bad. You're not
Oh,
whatever. You're like doing the best you know how to do to survive. And often it's, corrective physiology in a way. So these steps to this freedom are really, really transformative and necessary. I think whether we've had, a sexual assault or not. I mean, I
right.
want everyone to read this aspect of this part, all of your book. I mean, so much
Right.
fun. It's really good. You're right on target. And but definitely this part of your book too, because I'm going to bring it up in my magic menopause class too. We'll talk
Oh,
about
I'm
that.
so glad. Oh, well, you should get Margaret on your show. I can connect you
I'm
two.
just bringing you on my show, girl. We're going to keep the conversation open.
Well,
Yeah, this is
she's
fun.
fantastic. Do you want me to go through the steps? Do you want, I mean,
Yeah,
people,
go.
okay.
Yeah, let's go
So
through a couple
step
steps.
one is willingness to feel pain and take responsibility for your feelings. In this step, you make a conscious decision that you want to take responsibility for your feelings and for learning how you are causing your own anxiety, depression, anger, guilt, and shame with your own thoughts and actions. And that can be hard sometimes, right? Because you want to blame the person that hurt you, right? And I don't think she's saying not to, but at the same time, you have to look within yourself. Step two is moving into the intent to learn. Invite the compassionate presence of love, your higher self, God, compassion, into your heart and choose to be in the intent to learn about loving yourself rather than the intent to protect yourself from pain. So I think a lot of the things that I did, sleeping around and just not really dealing with stuff, was not dealing with things that happened in my childhood and the different trauma that I went through, instead of stopping and just loving yourself, right? It's like you're running away because it's hard not to. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy. I
Mhm.
still struggle with the attention seeking at times, and which I'm very open about, you know. Step 3, ask your inner child questions such as, what am I telling myself that is causing this pain? And ask your wounded self questions such as, what am I avoiding feeling with my protective, controlling behavior? As you listen inside for answers, you uncover the false beliefs created in the past and which are causing the current self-abandonment. I think that's so interesting because I never really thought about, wow, you know, not only if you were abused, you're abandoned, then you're abandoned again by yourself, right? So
Mm.
how to get back in touch with yourself. She's just
Wow, wow, wow,
fabulous.
wow. That's powerful because I've never
Isn't
put
it?
those two words together, self-abandonment,
Yeah,
right? But I can
right?
totally see it. I can see how it played out in my own life, right?
Yeah,
That it's that's that just that again, if we put words to it, the eyes don't see what the mind don't know. So as long as we can just look and investigate, okay, well maybe that was, you know, that's what was happening. That's a survival mechanism, but
right.
doesn't serve us.
Exactly.
It no longer serves us.
Yes, exactly. Step 4, you ask yourself, excuse me, you ask your source of love, whatever that is for you, what is the truth about the thoughts, false beliefs uncovered in step 3? And what is loving for me to do in this situation? What is kind to myself? You open and allow the answers to come through you in words, pictures, or feelings. In step 5, you take, I love this word or this phrase, loving action based on the information that came through your guidance in step 4. Over time, loving actions heal the shame, anxiety, and depression that resulted from your self-abandonment. And in step 6, you evaluate if the loving action was effective. It's just, it's really, really intense. And it's something that you know, you can do on your own, right? You get her work, read my book, get more about her, go on YouTube, look her up, Dr. Margaret Paul. But then it's, you know, it's great if you can, you know, if you want to see her, but you can also do this work on your own, which I like. And that's what I try to do with the whole book, is to provide enough information where people can say, oh, okay, I love how Dr. Pankod Bidge said, find your why. And I loved how Beth Frady's MD, who's, you know, lifestyle medicine doctor, physician, and teaches at Harvard, talked about this Moss method, motivation and obstacles, overcoming obstacles and strategies. And, you know, and I love how Andrea Donsky talked about her own issues. I do a show with her, Naturally Savvy, which you're going to come on, and found out what was ailing her and was able to make changes, and then became a nutritionist to help other people. You know, it's just so interesting to see. So
Yeah, and you do a great job in sharing those stories. I think that's really powerful. So these are the 6 steps to inner freedom so that we can create this inner bonding, right? That sense of
right.
self-love and no longer self-abandonment, but, you know, self-actualization. So, and again, self-love,
Yes.
self-connection, like connecting to ourselves and being able to say, oh, wow, well, I can see that, right? And Oprah says this really well. Trauma is an explanation, but it's not an excuse.
Right.
Right? Trauma is an explanation, but it's not an excuse. So, you know, move on, move forward. And the act of forgiveness is self-love. The act
Yes.
of forgiving is self-love, and forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. So those are like my favorite sound bites of all time. I've had to run those mantras through my head for numerous times for sure.
Yeah, I
So
love those.
Lisa, I want tell everyone where they can get your book, Clean Eating, Dirty Sex, and I want everyone, listen, guys, this book needs to be in your bookshelf. This is just, it's
Oh, thank
good stuff.
you.
There are gold nuggets. It's an easy read. It's a quick read, right?
Right.
Just so many gold nuggets, and the way you did it with the expert interviews and your interjections, it's really really well done. So
Thank you so much. Also, don't forget there are over 50 recipes. Erin McDonald, she is the nutritionist dietitian for Clean Eating Magazine. She runs the Clean Eating Academy, and that woman has a way with spices. I told her what foods are scientifically shown to be good for sexual health, and she whipped up some incredible recipes. This is what the book looks like. I thought it was really clever. It's through Skyhorse Publishing. You can find it at your
wait,
local
hold that up
bookstore.
again. I just, because I have the electronic version. That is
Isn't that
hysterical.
fun?
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. That's fun.
It's
That
not
is fun.
dirty. But you can get it at your local bookstore. Skyhorse is really good about getting books in bookstores, but you can also get it on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, or wherever you buy books. And I have a new website, which I'd love to plug. I made it nice and easy. My old ones are always too long. This is just lisadavismph.com.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. LisaDavisMPH.com. Easy.
Yes. This went
MPH.com.
by in like a second.
I
I could
know.
talk to you forever.
I could talk to you forever.
Okay, we need to
Absolutely.
do more things together,
We
definitely.
we do. I see that. I see that happening definitely. So I want to thank you so much and honor you for your time and being with us today and sharing your wisdom with our audience and your book and your pearls. And I'm excited to continue the conversation. I'm sure for our listeners, I want to encourage each and every one of you. I know this is a episode that we've touched on some really, heated stuff here. So if you have questions, email me, email my team, team at drannacabeca.com. Email us or put comments down below this. You're on my podcast page, and share what you're experiencing or what your thoughts are. I want to hear from you because I'm going to bring Lisa back and we're going to continue to delve in this subject because we have so much that we need to open up and connect with. And our relationships are the most important thing in our life, and anything holding us back from that quality soulmate connection and relationship, and not just with the person that we love, but our soulmate families, right? Our families by choice and our families by birth. And like, how are those relationships in our life? And I want them to be golden. Like I say, because of the work that I've done over the years, and just holding true to a healthy, strong foundation, I have the best relationships now that I've ever had in my entire life. And it's important that we get there. I know that so many women and men struggle with that piece of connection, reconnection, open, honest communication. But when we have that, the love can just erupt from that. So and self-love, self-adoration as opposed to self-abandonment. We want to get to that state in all of our lives so that also we can lead our next generations up to be in that same space without the many years trauma, denial, and recriminations that often occurs. So to everyone listening, be bold, brave, beautiful. It is great to have you on Couch Talk. Please let me hear your thoughts below, and we'll be back again next week. Thank you.